right, welcome everybody. My name is Josiah Sweet. What we're going to be going over today is understanding a universal life, kind of how to diagnose it, also how to explain it to the client, so that way you can tell them at least whether they're in something that is going to last them or something that could possibly change when it comes to their premiums down the road. So first thing I'd like to say is with universal lives, a lot of times people instantly hear that and they're thinking, boom, 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 this is something that I definitely need to go in and replace. There are some universal lives where people do fund them correctly, where they will last for that person's lifetime. And so it's very important to check and see based on what their cost of insurance is and different factors. And obviously we're going to get into how to break that down. But it's very important to make sure, hey, this is something that's going to change on you down the road, and exactly what age bracket you think it's going to change, or excuse me, what age you think it's going to change at. So that way when you're sitting down with the client, you can give them a real representation and you're not just telling them, hey, your UL is bad just because you're in one. You want to make sure to get the actual information, so you're giving them an honest look at what they've got and how you're going to be able to help them. So first things first, kind of how does a universal life work? A universal life is technically considered a type of whole life if that person can keep it their whole life, if funded correctly. And so with that, it's set up to where their cost of insurance is lower than what they're paying in premiums in their younger years, and so they're building cash value based on that difference. While that cash value is building, it's also earning an interest, which is helping it grow even larger. But the problem with the policy is as somebody gets older, then their cost of insurance starts to raise by year. And when that happens, if the cost of insurance creeps above what somebody's paying in premiums, then it can start to use that cash value to pay for the difference, and that's when somebody's cash value can start to deplete. And so the biggest thing that you need to check is, are they paying close to the MEC limit, making sure it's being funded correctly. But to understand that a little bit better, I got a whiteboard here. I'm going to show you kind of what that looks like. So if this is your premium, and then this is cost of insurance. So cost of insurance is broken down by a per thousand basis in an actual policy. So if you have your hands on an actual universal life policy, you're going to be able to flip to one of the pages in there and it'll say maximum cost of insurance per thousand. Now, some of those numbers next to the ages on there can be pretty scary. It's not always as high as what's on that sheet. Obviously, those are the maximum cost of insurance, but the insurance company puts that on there to protect themselves. They could actually have a much lower cost of insurance than what that number is, so it's very important to always call the company to double check how accurate their current cost of insurance is compared to what that chart's saying. But that chart can kind of give you an idea of down the road in that person's late 60s, 70s, and 80s what that cost of insurance should be doing. And so, like I was saying earlier, if this person's paying $60 a month for a premium and their cost of insurance starts at $20 each month in that first year, $40 is going into their cash value. In that second year and on, they're actually building that interest in there too in that cash value, which is nice. It's helping it fund it a little bit longer. But like I said, as you get longer into that policy, your cost of insurance can go up, go up, go up, to where now it's at $120 a month. And at that point, you can see $60 would be taken out of that cash value to fund the difference in cost of insurance to premium each month of that policy. Now, I know there is still some interest growing on the cash value that's there, and so that can take into account some of this cost of insurance being eaten. But unfortunately, a lot of these policies that I see are underfunded. And what I mean by underfunded is they pay too little of premium because they can either be universal lives, flexible premium adjustable lives, and when they are flexible or you're able to pay the premium that you would prefer to pay, most of the time people are going to try to pay less and get more. But the problem with that is you don't build enough cash value in your younger years to make this policy last into your 70s and 80s. And so a lot of times when you're sitting down with somebody, they're going to tell you, I got whole life. I promise, I got whole life. I got cash value. I have to have whole life. But that does mean that they technically have something that could last their whole life, but it doesn't mean that their premiums won't change down the road. So an important question to ask them might be, hey, do you get an annual statement from that company every year? And if they say yes, that can kind of trigger you to say, hey, that doesn't mean this is absolutely a universal life, because participatings do send those out too. But this could be a good chance that this is a whole life. So a more seasoned agent can normally hear a name of a company or can hear a certain amount that somebody's paying per amount of coverage they have and kind of automatically get a little bit of a hint of, hey, I think that might be a universal life. Let's get that company on the phone and check for you, because I don't want you to have something where you're paying $600, $700 a month later on in life. And these really do happen out there. I've sat down with people in their early 80s paying $1,200, $1,300 a month for these universal lives that they started off only paying $100 or less in a month. And so that's very devastating when you see somebody that's living on a fixed income that feels like, hey, I've put so much money into this for so long that I really don't want to lose everything that I've invested into it. So they almost feel trapped. And so that's why I try to use those stories when I'm sitting down with a client to say, hey, I've had this happen in the past. I'm not saying that this is your policy, but I have had clients I've sat with in the past that have been paying excess premiums later on down the road that you need to know about. And if we call that company and they've got good news for us, I'm going to tell you how great this policy is for you. But if I call that company and your cash value has been underfunded due to lack of premiums, then I'm going to let you know that too, because I'd hate for you to get 5 years down the road, lose the cash value that you have built up right now, as well as being forced to pay those higher premiums just to keep the insurance that you're in. There's a bunch of different ways to kind of go about helping somebody in a situation like this if they have poorly funded their universal life. One of those ways is taking it and just calling the company and saying, hey, maybe this person needs to increase the premiums that they're paying, and that's just a simple fix. Sometimes that could be a benefit for the client. If they have enough cash value in it and it's a large enough policy, sometimes you can exchange that cash value into a single premium type policy, which gives them at least a paid up amount of insurance that is going to be higher than the amount of cash that they have in cash value, and that way they're not sitting there trying to make excess premium payments either. And so that can kind of be a little bit of a benefit. And then what are the other things you can do, because most of them don't have a reduced paid up option, is you could get that person their cash value back before it is eaten and taken away from that cost of insurance. So kind of a little overview. Not all universal lives or flexible premium adjustable lives are bad. It's just very important to make sure that they were properly funded. Best way to do that, get the company on the phone, check premiums, compare that with their current cost of insurance, ask where their cash value is now, and then calculate how long they've had the policy and what their cash value has been able to build to, so that way you can get a good understanding of, hey, this thing's rocking and rolling, it's really building, or you're paying pretty close to cost of insurance already and you're still relatively young. This thing's not looking too good to last you later on in life. And I promise you, during the fact, it's going to be tough to get the client to get on board with getting you some of that information, but after the fact, they're going to be hugging you and thanking you that you showed them this and they didn't have to pay those $700 a month down the road, or didn't get forced with even that decision. So take your time on these, make sure you're calling the company, get accurate information on the policies. If you can get the policy in your hands, definitely do so. If you're a newer agent and you're somebody that might struggle a little bit with explaining this to a client, then make sure you get your manager or somebody on the phone, and they can always help you go a little bit farther with that. But that's all I got for that. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.